Welcome to Behind the Build. I am your host, Jonathan Jacobs, and today I have with me a friend of friends. Someone who had listened to the podcast and said, I want to join. I said, okay. Today I have with me Sacha Lee from Aeon Design Studio. When you're building on tight urban lots, when access is a nightmare and there's barely room for a crane or a dolly, there are people who say it can't be done. And then there are people like Marta and Martin from The Doors who show up anyway. We didn't talk a ton about installation logistics in this episode with Sacha, but behind the scenes, this is what makes or breaks a job. You can have the most beautiful front door in the world, but if it's not on site, on time, installed cleanly, and accounted for in the budget and the crane schedule, you're not doing your client any favors. The Doors has become one of those rare companies I know I can call early in the process and they'll think through everything. Not just the look and feel of the product, but how it will actually make its way onto the site. And they do it with care. They're reachable, committed, and they don't bail when it gets complicated. You can tell they want to protect the relationships more than just their own reputation. They want to honor the relationship, and that kind of accountability makes a difference. If you want to learn more about The Doors, feel free to email me. It's Jonathan, Jonathan, at waldenhomes.ca. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Jonathan.
It's my pleasure.
I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
This is an in-person interview. We had a conversation or exchanged emails a while back. Started on Instagram, I think.
Yes.
And then...
I reached out to you because I said, I do want to be on this podcast. I need to meet Jonathan.
It's too much. I am too much. So again, it's an in-person interview, and ideally my favorite way of doing it, because we get to actually sit across from each other. Mm-hmm. We get to engage in a conversation. We get to make eye contact with each other, read each other's body language, and all those things that are really important in being able to have a conversation. Plus, we also we broke, not bread. We had some Thai food.
Yeah.
And that's when Sacha started telling me about her story, and then I told her to stop because I wanted it to be fresh.
Yes.
So
you know nothing.
So with that said, Sacha has a beautiful studio. She has experienced her own work in her home, having gone through a massive renovation. So with all of this said, I would like for you to be able to go ahead and tell your story. So let's start from the beginning. You've heard this, you know the format. If you can, talk about the early interest in wanting to get into the practice of architecture.
Yeah. So for me, it really started early. I was probably around 10 years old when I knew I wanted to become an architect. I don't know why I thought that, but it just felt like something I needed to do.
Did someone introduce like what an architect is or what they do to you? Or how did you come across that at 10?
I was always interested in art and creative things, but I also had a lot of interest in math, organization, building. On my mother's side, my grandfather was a master builder, very accomplished Finnish carpenter. So with him, I was on construction sites regularly. Mm-hmm. I also got to see firsthand what quality residential design was like, right? Because that's what he was building, was custom homes.
Right.
And I could just tell the difference between that and lesser thought out architecture. And I knew that I wanted to be a part of something that would be impactful. I guess I was an old soul, even when I was little. And it just... everything about it interested me, right? Being able to come up with layouts, being able to be on construction sites. Yep. I certainly didn't know the full depth of what the profession would entail, but the broad strokes were interesting to me then.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up in a rural area near Tillsonburg, Ontario. Okay. It was originally a tobacco industry area just north of Long Point, Ontario. And I also knew that I wasn't going to go into farming. I wanted something that was a little different than that for myself. And yeah, I just gravitated towards architecture from a very young age. So I really embraced all of the types of knowledge I would need in order to set me on that path in the right way. So a lot of art classes, a lot of math, a lot of science, a lot of drawing, all through high school, and then obviously my end goal there was architecture school.
Okay.
Hmm.
And this also, you say you had referenced it, and I think it's just important to know this. Well, on one side of the family, we talked about this at lunch. You had carpenter,
Yep.
an amazing craftsperson. On the other side,
Entrepreneurs. People who wanted to run their own business. So that actually is the other part of it. Thank you. I always knew that I wanted to eventually have my own architecture practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kept that in mind a lot as I was going through my early career.
And so what did that, like, this might sound silly. I don't think I've ever asked anyone this question, but like, did you on the weekends, would you ever do something like a lemonade stand, or did you babysit? Like, were any of those early iterative entrepreneurial projects something that you took on?
Ironically, I never had either of those things.
Okay.
I've never done a lemonade stand or babysat, though I did have two sisters, younger sisters. So I guess I did babysit, my younger sisters, my cousins. I didn't get paid for it. That's okay. I also grew up in the middle of nowhere, so a lemonade stand would have been very inefficient. Yes, I probably would have had two people come the whole day if I sat out.
The ice melted.
Yeah, exactly. That's not to say I wasn't entrepreneurial, and I definitely was gleaning as much as I could from all of my family members' businesses. Right,
Yeah.
I worked on my parents' farm. I worked at my uncle's lumber mill. I worked with my grandfather, right? Learning as much as I could from them and their entrepreneurial experiences to set myself on the right path.
Yeah, getting your hands dirty and absorbing it all.
Exactly.
So in high school, were there classes that provided you with any further kind of depth of knowledge about what the field would look like as you wanted to go and apply to a university? Did you have drafting classes or anything?
Yes, actually. Yes, I did have drafting classes. So obviously I went to a rural high school, and there are some limitations there. It wasn't an art school or that type of school that maybe a urban kid would have access to, but we did have drafting classes. And so obviously I signed up for that. I obviously also signed up for every art class that I could get my hands on into my schedule. And that drafting class was really helpful for me. I learned CAD there. So I was actually probably one of the only first year architecture students that knew how to use AutoCAD when I entered. And my AutoCAD teacher, he could see that I had a huge interest in it, and he tailored the classes. I think I took it 3 semesters over my last 2 years of high school.
Mm-hmm.
He tailored some of the projects to me and my interests, and maybe pushed me further than he did with some of the other students because he knew it was a real interest and passion of mine.
That's pretty special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mr.
Weeb.
Mr. Weeb.
Yep.
You're a good man.
Yeah. Yeah. He also recruited me to the rowing team, which is hilarious because I'm 5'1", but I was the coxswain for the girls rowing team. And that was a fun experience too.
I have to excuse myself for my own naivety. I don't know. What is that?
The coxswain is the person who sits at the end of the boat and keeps the pace.
The rhythm,
keeps the rhythm. Yeah, keeps the pace, keeps the rhythm, also in charge of steering. So a pivotal role in the success of the team.
I as I'm saying this, I'm like, I feel like a fool. You have a microphone or no?
No microphone. You just have to be really loud.
You're just yelling.
You're just yelling, literally yelling at people.
Oh.
Yeah, probably also good experience for my future career.
Why is this wall out of line?
Yes.
It's not plumb. All right. Got it.
Yep.
Clear.
Yep.
Okay, so Mr. Weeb does this amazing job with you, and then you decide you're going to, and did I say his name? Is this correct?
Yep,
Mr.
that's
Weeb?
correct.
Okay. So then we want to go and apply for university. And where did you apply?
I had my heart set on going to Waterloo.
Okay.
To me, at the time, that's where I needed to be, right? I loved the idea of the co-op programs and
Yeah.
the practical aspect of it. I applied to all the universities in Ontario at the time, but that's really where I wanted to go. And thankfully, I did get in no small part, I think, to a friend of my uncle who was an architect, the only architect at that point I had ever talked to in my entire life, who helped me with my portfolio, just giving me some advice on how to present things in the most effective way. So I ended up getting into Waterloo and I went there. I did my undergrad at Waterloo, took advantage of the co op program, did placements in Vancouver, in Toronto, in the US, abroad to give myself not only some more travel experience, but also a broad range of architectural projects to work on. To really, I used it as a time to figure out what my interests were in architecture long term.
Okay. And are there still people that you are connected to now that you went to school with there?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a tight knit program.
Yeah.
They accept about, or at the time, they accepted 60 students a year. And you spend a lot of class hours and personal hours with those people. So, yeah, I'm still in touch with many of my classmates today.
You know, something that came up in my conversation with Sacha, and it comes up a lot with architects when we speak, is how much design lives or dies on flow. Not just on paper, but in the details that people interact with every day. When the fridge door swings open, how the cabinetry feels when you walk in from the garage with your hands full, that stuff matters. And when you're designing for that kind of specificity, it helps to work with suppliers who get it. That's why I send clients to Kaplan's. It's not just an appliance showroom, it's an experience. And more importantly, it's a conversation. They don't just ask what fridge you want. They ask whether it needs to be panel ready or if you're planning a side-by-side install. Do you need a stand-up freezer? Do you entertain? Do you cook every night? They listen for the same reasons we do, because good outcomes come from care and from asking the right questions. They're constantly supporting the design and build community, whether it's through their masterclass seminars or just the feeling you get when you walk through the doors. There's a culture there. They're not trying to be transactional. They're trying to build something meaningful with people they work with. If you want to find out more about Kaplan's Appliances or get connected to one of their staff, feel free to email me. It's Jonathan, JONATHAN @waldenhomes.ca. That's, I think, one of the most special elements of like what this profession is that the classes in university are so small.
Yeah.
And this is a theme that I've heard from everyone, is that because they're small, because of that connectivity and because of how challenging it can be coming out of first year, some people drop out after first year. They can't handle it.
Oh, yeah. It's no joke. Architecture school is really hard. So I think they intentionally keep the class sizes small so that you have a support group, basically. And it's a very unique university experience. I didn't even realize how different it was
In what
until in the way that you basically know everybody in your class.
way?
Right. I didn't know any better because I hadn't done any other university degree like math or whatever. I didn't realize that your friend group, your focus are not always the same, right? So for me, it was one and the same. You know, the people who were in architecture school were also my best friends,
Right.
and they still to this day are. And it's something that I'm grateful for. Yeah, we talked earlier about how relationships mean a lot to me. And so being able to have those relationships now, decades later, still is really special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think as the older you get in life, the more you want to surround yourself with people that are going to contribute to the general health of your life.
Yeah, definitely.
And not having people around you that can be more of a challenge. So if you can maintain those relationships over decades, and they're still contributing value to what it is to have a meaningful friendship with people, then yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree with that. So you finished school, and what did it look like? Did you did the Rome experience?
I did the Rome experience. Yes, of course.
Okay. So
It was definitely a draw as well as the
Yeah.
co-op program. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me of that. It feels like a lifetime ago sometimes, but yes, I did the Rome experience. It was as amazing as you can expect it to be as a fourth year architecture student living in Rome for 4 months. And then I graduated, and I knew I didn't want to go get my master's right away.
hmm
I knew I wanted to get it because my end goal still was to become a licensed architect, but I decided I wanted to work for a little bit. And I ended up at an architecture firm in Toronto where I really discovered the type of design I was passionate about. And that was single family residential, as well as boutique commercial work. So this architecture firm did some custom residential. They also did some larger scale multi-res. And then they did a lot of restaurants, hospitality work, that type of stuff. And I loved it. I loved both of those. I love with the custom res that it's kind of the only building type where you're working with the end user,
hmm
right? And you can literally affect their day-to-day lives through your design, right? You can make their life a whole lot busier, a whole lot better, or it could be the other way, though obviously that's not the goal. So I worked there for about a year and a half, almost 2 years, and then I went back and did my master's again at Waterloo.
Okay.
Yeah. With my master's, something I needed to do, get done. It wasn't another opportunity for me to explore another big idea. I knew what I wanted to do. I just needed to have the master's in order to get myself there.
hmm
So I did that. And then I went and worked for another architecture firm, smaller firm, where I got more of that custom res experience, this time on the super high end level. I'd be working on 10, 20, 30,000 square foot homes, and also more of that hospitality work that I really loved. And I was actually the only person at that office at the time that had that experience. So I got to spearhead those projects, which was really, really fun.
No one sees right now is the smile as you realize that this is the point of the career where like you start to like come into your own.
Yeah, exactly. It was great. Leading the projects was super fun. And all those types of projects are super fun. I mean, you get to have a lot of creativity there. You really get to create an atmosphere through design
Right.
in that type of work,
Right.
which I think is interesting, especially because a lot of the hospitality is interior retrofits, right? So you have to use design as a tool to create an experience for people, but it also has to be super functional.
Right.
If they can't run their business effectively and efficiently, because restaurants are hard businesses in the first place, then you've essentially set them up to fail, which is not a good place to be. So I really learned a lot about functional floor plans on those projects. And I think I've been able to take a lot of that learning into the residential work that I do now to create design that's utilizing every square inch of a building.
As you say that, I'm thinking about like because the floor plan in a restaurant would be so pivotal in allowing the occupants to be able to move through it. People have to go to the washroom, they're getting seated. And so from there, you start thinking about the servers, and they have to move through, be able to pull chairs back, not move fixed elements. Oh my gosh! Then you get to the kit. Yeah, I'm absorbing all of that because you could see how all of that would then play into how traffic moves through a residential home.
Absolutely.
There's fewer people, but now you can understand flow
exactly
in a different way.
Totally. Yeah. Everything's about flow in like the early stages of design for me now. So now when I'm approaching a residential project, I ask my clients a lot about what their current challenges are, what their vision is, what do they do in their day-to-day lives, the activities that they do, and find a flow that will help them do those things better.
Yeah, well, provide a solution to the problems they're going to create in themselves. If it's a person that plays hockey or they're playing or they're doing something else, where does that go?
Yeah.
How are you going to get it out? What's the space look like? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the practice that you're referencing just now, where you had really kind of come into your own, were you a part of the process when a new client would come in? Were you sitting in the room to help pitch the business, or were you sitting there? How did your confidence in being in front of the client start to come along in that
Right.
professional growth?
Well, I mean, it started out small. Obviously, at the beginning, I would be there to help present design,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as my confidence grew, I got to do more and more of that on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Towards the end, I was a bit more involved in the very early stage client retention, not on my own, but I got a little bit of that experience. But really, for me, it was about there. I really honed my skills of taking a project from beginning to end as the lead designer or the
Mm-hmm.
lead architect.
I would imagine like you go into those meetings and as you gain that confidence and you talk about, you'd be involved in some of the retention. It's a hard thing to be able to take that over. Like most founders, partners, principals don't want to hand over that type of control of their business to someone that is not as equally invested in it, whether you want to be or not. Like that's a hard thing for someone to want to do.
Oh,
So,
yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, I can appreciate the fact that you weren't fully involved in that sale, but I guess the reason that I asked that question is because based on everything you've said so far, that from the entrepreneurial family that's hands-on,
Hmm.
I can kind of envision me now, just getting to know you, I envision you sitting in on those meetings and you're like foaming at the bit to want to be able to do this for yourself.
I was definitely a sponge.
I was actually saying this with Leanne and Adolfino from Design Theory. I was like, well, because you knew what you wanted and you were a sponge, and then all of a sudden that sponge was full.
Yeah.
Well, before I even get to the point where we start to go into the evolution of your own practice, I'm curious to know, so how many projects, if you can even guess, were you involved with between these different practices that you got to see through from like inception to completion? It could be a very...
At least a dozen.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, some of them would take a long time.
Yeah,
right? Like I had
30,000.
Yeah, exactly. I had residential projects that would be 5 years
Yeah.
from, start to completion. But then the restaurants, quick.
Yeah,
You
of
got to
course.
be really quick, right? Time is money. Your clients are spending 10, 15, 20K a month on rent. That project has to go fast.
Yeah. I do want to, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. And that is just to say, if you're listening to this and you're a student, okay, and you're trying to figure out why a project would take 5 years, okay, it is because there's design intense work that's happening before construction starts.
Yes.
Then there's construction.
Exactly. Yeah. So the design and approvals,
Yes.
right? Approvals alone can take a year or more.
Yeah.
So with some of those 5-year projects, we'd be on design for 6 months, a year to a year and a half of approvals, plus obviously more design. And then, usually a 3, sometimes up to 4-year build for these super complicated projects for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so now we've laid the foundation.
Yes, exactly. Versus like a restaurant project, you have basically 3 months to design it and then 6 months to construct. Yeah, it's like less than a year from start to finish. It's fast. Over the course of those 2 firms that I was at, probably 12 projects I finished there.
And were they varying between new construction? You already referenced some of the commercial and renovation projects. I guess the commercial was renovation anyways. So.
Yeah, commercial was pretty much all renovation, but I did work on some residential renovations as well. It was a good mix. I was really lucky that I got to work on so many projects in so many, like it's such a broad range of scales and sizes and requirements over that period of time.
I've never asked someone this question either. So this is not about lemonade.
Okay.
But when you finished the restaurant project, did you have a celebration kickoff with like the design team and the owners?
Yes. Yep. Okay. Yeah, we had some fun parties.
just want to make sure that there's some level of like satisfaction at the end of this. Like, this all works.
Yeah, even for a lot of the residential projects, there would be some sort of a celebration towards the end.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
recognition of all the hard work done by so many people.
Yeah.
Right? It's definitely a team effort for both of those types of projects.
Okay, so moving now forward from there. So let's now talk about the evolution of your practice.
Yes.
So when do you officially register?
It was
Aeon
November.
Design Studio.
Yeah, it was November of 2018.
Okay.
I was coming off of mat leave with my second child, and it just felt like the right time for me. Right? I knew I didn't want to go back to where I was, and I had enough knowledge and contacts at that point to start my own thing. And I also needed, because of this young family, to have more ownership over my time. You know what it's like. I'm not working less. I just get to dictate when I'm working and when I'm not. And that was really the impetus for me to start my own practice.
One of the things Sacha and I touched on was working with the reality of a site, its constraints, its shape, its flow, and building something that respects that. That's also what I love about Aquana pools. These are not cookie-cutter fiberglass shells being dropped in wherever they'll fit. Aquana pools are made in Canada with Italian roots, and they're designed to highlight the natural setting rather than fight it. Whether it's a ceramic tile or a concrete finish or a custom top layer, they'll help you figure out what belongs, not just what's possible. They'll think creatively about space too. Not every client wants a full-size lap pool. Sometimes it's a swim spa. Sometimes it's about the visual connection to the house and what the depth zoning will allow. And they're thoughtful about all of it. If you've ever worked on a project where landscape and structure need to speak the same language, Aquanta is a great partner. It's not just about swimming, it's about integration, materiality, and giving the client something they'll love for a long time. That's unique. If you want to learn more about Aquana pools, feel free to email me. Jonathan, Jonathan, at waldenhomes.ca. I think that's something that I guess we don't talk about as much with people. That sense of control over your time, really, really matters, especially when you have a young family. And you did tell me something at lunch that I do want to touch on.
Sure.
So you explained how you had started your practice, you had your second child.
Yep.
And then there's a shift in the responsibility that you have.
Yes, absolutely.
So what was that?
Yeah. At the same time, my husband was traveling for work. He was actually working in New York. So he was gone Monday to Friday, which is what really necessitated control of my own time and my own schedule, right? I had become a licensed architect here in Ontario, and I barely had time to practice before we started having a family. And I knew I wanted to do that, but I had to be able to do it on my own terms. And so starting my own business, the stars were all aligned for me to do that at that point in time. And, at the beginning, I was able to take on less projects so that I could be around more for the family. And then over time, as my kids have gotten older and older, they're currently 9 and 7, I've got a full workload now. And my husband's also working from New York a little bit less. So I'm taking on more and more projects, and I've got a team. It's all good. It was partially by design to start out small and to gradually ramp up.
And what did the projects look like when you went out on your own? You first opened this up.
Yeah, my first project, Jonathan, was a room, right? I designed a nursery for friends of ours.
Amazing.
And I did the best damn job that I could with that project. I had $10,000 and I did what I could. And that project led to a larger project, which led to a larger project, which led to a larger project. And you know how it goes, right? So
yeah, but that again, you laugh about it, and I think we all kind of do about what those first projects look like. But someone's trusting you with $10,000, and I know
totally.
I know this sounds so silly, it's $10,000. Now projects are millions of dollars, but It's $10,000.
I know.
When you want to go on a vacation,
Yes.
you're freaking out about going on a vacation with 10 grand, right? In
Trust
some way.
me, I did not take that lightly, and I
Yeah.
still don't. You
Yeah.
know, those clients are still friends of mine. I did another project for them afterwards, which was a full condo renovation. And I know that if they were to ever hire another architect again, it would be me because I took it very seriously. And I did the best job that I could. It was a challenging room, to be honest.
And look, I wasn't suggesting that you
Yeah.
didn't take it seriously. It was
Yeah.
more so the fact that, like,
I know. You start small.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't grow up in Toronto, so I don't have a whole network, a whole lifetime of people that I could reference, right? That I could put out my whatever board and say,
Yeah.
hey, I'm open for business.
Right.
I had only the people that I've known in this city since 2007, most of whom are also architects. So I don't take it lightly. I really appreciate that friends of mine gave me a chance and then continued to give me a chance with another project of theirs and every client since. Like my goal is always at the end of a project to be able to call those people friends and to be able to call them up and say, hey, I'm in your neighborhood. Can I stop by for a coffee?
Yeah.
Or if you're ever in my neighborhood, please do stop by. I
Right.
would love to have you over.
Yeah, I think that is truly one of the most special elements about working in design, even more so in custom single family residential, is that you have this. If you do want to hone it, you have this ability to be able to connect with people and develop a relationship in a professional manner that is completely different than many other businesses.
Yes.
You get to know where their underwear is going.
Yep.
How they're going to store their toothbrush.
Yes. What they cook for dinner.
What they cook for dinner, where the spices go, where you put in the toilet paper.
Yep.
Like there's so much that you get to know about people that creates this bond. So you moved away from the $10,000 room.
Yep.
And as the project flow started to change, what did it look like? How many projects were you able to manage on your own before you kind of like freaked out and said, I need to look at getting some additional assistance on this?
Honestly, it was pretty quick. I'd say within a year, I felt like I needed some assistance.
How many projects did you need?
I probably had 3 or 4 projects.
Okay.
But because I also was managing a lot in my personal life, I knew my own limitations.
Yeah.
Right? So I hired my first contract employee, not full-time, not salaried, about a year after I opened. And I had her with me for a while.
What was it like? You're a year into the practice. You've got 3-4 projects. The purpose of you going out on your own was so that you could have more control.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get into a position where you have to give up the control to someone else, hoping that they're going to be able to fulfill what you're looking for.
I mean, yes and no.
Okay.
Right? I still have ultimate control of my projects.
Mm-hmm.
I really try very hard not to micromanage people because that's happened to me and it's not a good position for anybody.
Agreed.
But I still am involved in every single project I do. And now we're at quadruple that, right? So it was really more or less about finding people who wanted to be collaborative, right? Who wanted to take on part of the work that I couldn't do myself, whether that's building out the full drawing set for me to review, right? Because at the end of the day, it's still my license on that piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
It was really about finding people to be collaborative, right? Even though they're a contract employee, I still I needed to be part of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I still believe in that pretty heavily, which is why I haven't grown my team too big, because I still recognize that at the end of the day, if I'm the first point of contact for a potential client, ultimately they are kind of hiring me.
Yeah.
You know? And so I want to be involved in every project in some capacity.
And so at the stage that you're at now, my math, 7 years later.
Yep. Coming on. Yes.
Right. So nearing 7 years of the practice, you said you quadruple staff.
I have
So
3 full-time salaried employees now.
right.
Yeah.
And we'll get to talking about, again, going back to some of like what the projects can look like now and
Mhm.
design intent and everything. But 3 salaried employees means that you're doing a lot more with your business in terms of like the operational side of things and making sure that, in some ways there's HR and then HR understanding.
Well, one of my full-time employees is an operations and office manager.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yep.
so you realized that you had to have that.
If I wanted to still have time for creativity,
Yeah.
which is ultimately what made me fall in love with the profession in the first place, then yes, I needed somebody there to be able to take a lot of that business running side of the business
Yeah,
off
yeah.
of my plate.
I was terrible at asking that question. I should have just asked, what are the roles of the employees rather than to say,
That's okay.
"Well."
That's okay. That's okay. But yes, I have 2 designers that work for me.
Yeah.
One, and they have different and complementary strengths, which I love because we do have a wide range of needs of our projects. So usually one of the 2 of them will be kind of the lead designer on a
Mhm.
project, overseen by me. And then I have my office and operations manager who's just honestly so pivotal to the running of the business, which I take very seriously. There are a couple of things about being an entrepreneur that I didn't really anticipate,
Yeah, let's get
but
into
that I have
those.
so much appreciation for. Yeah,
Okay.
I think, a lot of architects are really bad at running businesses, and I didn't want to be one of them. So I actually love running a business. I didn't know that about myself, but I guess it makes a lot of sense knowing what I know about my family's history, right? Family of serial entrepreneurs, I think is how I described
Yeah.
us earlier. So yeah, I love running a business. That was kind of discovery number 1.
Mhm.
And I take it very seriously and I love business development and I love learning more and more about how I can run a really successful business. And the other thing is the group of other entrepreneurs that I've connected with. Some are architects, interior designers, builders, of course. I'm going to connect with them
Mhm.
because we have a natural tie. But I know entrepreneurs of all different colors of the rainbow now. And I think that that's a really important thing to do as a business owner with a small business is find a group of people that you can connect with on the business side because it can feel very isolating
Mhm.
to be that person on your own.
So what did that look like for you? How did you stumble upon the right group of people to be able to draw on ideas from and share grievances, looking for solutions? Like
Yeah.
what did that look like? How?
First of all, like I make opportunities happen,
Mhm.
right? I call people. I'm like, I would love to get a coffee with you. So I make that. I
Yeah.
kind of,
I
and
am proof of that.
you are
Yeah.
proof of
Yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah.
Jonathan. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't say no to any opportunity that comes my way for reciprocal of that.
Yeah.
Anybody who asks me out to a coffee. And then I moved in 2020 to a new area and I just happened to make a friend there who also was an entrepreneur who brought me into what is now a really robust group of female entrepreneurs. I mean, I could have bowed out, but I felt like there was a lot there
Right.
to light me up. So I'm really grateful for that opportunity to be part of that group, and that I think has been really pivotal on the like growing for me in terms of growing my business. Right? It's just having another group of entrepreneurs who aren't necessarily doing this exact same thing that you do,
Yeah.
though a lot of them are service-based businesses, but they're not exactly architecture or design. And being able to talk about our challenges
Right.
and talk about our wins and advise each other along the way and support each other along the way, I think is really important.
I think it's from that standpoint. I think it's kind of a rare support group. Like I
Yeah.
think it's a pretty special thing to be able to foster those types of relationships, because ultimately, whether it's a restaurant owner or a fintech startup or like someone managing a sales team, like
Yeah.
they're all bringing different types of experiences to the same thing. And if you're looking to understand things from an operational standpoint, how to improve, so you're going to get that. And
Exactly.
a wide variety of ideas.
Yep. There's a lot of different voices there. And I appreciate that. It takes work, right?
Yeah.
To be part of a group like that. You have to put in as much as you take out of it. But it also made me realize that I do know what I'm doing when I'm running a business, right? Because nothing about architecture school teaches you about how to run a business.
I know. I've had this conversation with so many people.
Because it's so true.
I know. I'm trying to think. For anyone that's listening to this, you have to know. So I work at a company that's called Walden Homes, and I say this because I never went to school for architecture. I didn't go to school for design. I didn't do any of that. I did go to school for broadcast and print journalism, but it's not what you did. And I say this because the ongoing theme over all the years of me having conversations with people and what you do is that the education on operations and business practices is completely neglected.
Totally. It's like not even a conversation that you have in 7 years of post-secondary education, 0 on how to actually run a successful business. And I think that's a huge failing, knowing that a large portion of each graduating class out of an architecture school is going to ultimately end up running a business. I mean, I think architecture is big enough that there's something for everyone. But if you are of the mind that you want to start a business, it would be helpful to have something to start with.
More than nothing?
More than nothing.
If that's where we're starting.
Yeah, exactly. It would be helpful to have anything, really. I don't know. I think about architecture education a lot because I don't know what it is in architecture school that I learned that I use on a day-to-day basis other than creative problem solving.
Yeah.
Right? I'd say that's the biggest one. It's also why I felt like I needed to go to Waterloo and do the co-op, because a lot of what I learned was in the practical work-based terms that I did.
Right. We are starting a newsletter. It's called Inside the Challenge. We want you to be a part of it, either as a consumer of the information or to record the information. The concept is simple. We're going to book a 10 to 20 minute time on Zoom, and you're going to record with me and share your challenge. If you don't want to record, well, how about you consume it? You can email me to either record with me or email me to register and sign up to receive the newsletter. People are going to be talking about the challenges of operations, of sales, of constructability, how personal elements are affecting their professional life. I've already recorded a whole bunch of them from people in the industry, the owners of architecture practices and design practices and consulting practices. We really look forward to getting this out to you. Feel free to connect Jonathan, Jonathan, at waldenhomes.ca. We look forward to getting this to you. I can attest that I had the same co-op experience when I was in school. And I worked at a few different places, and that was pivotal in helping me to understand what the profession can be like beyond the theoretical concepts that you learn.
Yeah.
Because theory's great, but man, you got to apply it.
Exactly. Exactly.
So you have, I'm going to bring it back. So you have a team, including yourself, of 4.
Yes.
Number of projects that you look at now is what? Is there a ratio of renovation to new build? Do you care about that at all?
I don't care about it. I think that there's something interesting and unique about every project.
Yep.
Renovations are by far much harder than new builds because you're working with existing conditions that are just different every time. So we do a lot of renovations additions.
Yeah.
Yep. But we do some new builds as well. I mean, less opportunity to do them in the areas where we're doing it, right? Because we do work a lot in Toronto, getting into some work in Mississauga. Most of my new builds have been outside of the GTA, but that will change. A healthy mix of architecture and interior design.
Okay.
We do both, and our clients typically will hire us to do both, though I am also working with great interior designers on other projects right now too. And I think that there's always something to be learned there, right? From each other. again, like going back to relationship building, I just love being able to build a team that can do great work together.
Yeah, the right support. I use that word now a couple times, but the right support group is huge. On the internal side as well, fulfilling things that you either don't have the time to do, you're not as strong at, and it gives them the opportunity to get some skin in the game.
Yeah.
Develop their level of confidence. Clients get to see that output. Are there things that you feel like you have applied to your staff that were different than what you were able to experience for yourself?
One thing I really try to focus on is being well-rounded, not just having a professional life, but also having a robust personal life. That's something that's really important to me, and being able to support people who might not necessarily, where 9 to 5 might not necessarily be the best option for them. So that's something I really try to do with my staff that I didn't always feel like I had the opportunity to do.
How do you manage that? Because we talk about operations and the importance of that, and that you love running a business. So how do you manage if someone's not working, call it 9 to 5? How do you understand when they're working, what their schedule's looking like? Like what does that look like for you?
I mean, I say not 9 to 5. I run a hybrid office. So we're 3 days in office and then 2 days from home. From home, they could be doing their work at midnight as long as it gets done.
Okay.
Right? If we have a meeting on a Friday morning, but they're working from home on Wednesday, as long as a presentation is there for me to view on Thursday, then I'm happy. All that to say, we use Slack in our office.
Okay.
And so the general rule is between 9 and 5. If I ask you a question, I'd like it to get answered, within a timely manner.
Yeah.
Right. And vice versa. I do the same. So we use technology to stay in touch. But if they have an appointment in the middle of the day and they're going to log back in at 8 p.m. to get their work done, that's fine by me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do, because we all work, like our company,
Right.
Walden's remote. We don't have an office, and I understand it because of the transition that had to happen as a result of COVID. And I also feel like because you established your business just before COVID had started, that there's that appreciation for the balance that life has to offer.
Yeah, probably. I want that balance for myself. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
okay, so let's talk about you.
Okay.
Because we've talked a lot about, you, but your practice and all that. We started off our conversation earlier today talking about some of our habits and what we like to do for ourselves. So what does that look like? How do you find your middle, your balance? What does your day look like? How do you and what does life look like outside of the practice?
Life outside of the practice is busy. I'm definitely at that stage of life. For me, it's about carving out time at the beginning and the end of the day for myself to pursue the things outside of my work and my family that I'm interested in. So every day for me starts out with some kind of movement, typically yoga, strength training, something like that.
Is that at 7:00 in the morning?
No, it's earlier. 5:30 to 6.
Yeah.
I get up early, but I've always been an early bird. I'm not a night owl. Ideally, I'm in bed every night by 10. Like, that is my goal every single day. So I like to get up early and get a jump on the day, get some movement in. It's also a time where I find that my brain just likes to process things. So if I'm working through a tough problem or, we've got an issue on site that I need to get an answer out that morning, it's a good time for me to do that. So I do my movement practice, then I have some family time, get into the office. End of the day, again, I have work in the middle, bookended by family, bookended by personal, right? And so, on the evening side, it's when work is complete, family time, personal time again. And whether that's reading, I do a lot of reading, or playing tennis or art or something like that, then that's my other personal time in the day. Yeah.
Tennis.
Yes.
We talked about that.
We did.
And so how often are you playing nowadays?
Usually about twice a week.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now I'm doing a clinic, so every Wednesday night's monopolized by that.
What time is the clinic?
7:30.
Okay.
7:30 to 9. So manageable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I didn't say to you is I used to coach. I coached for many years, but I don't even know. I have a string machine. There was one downstairs.
Is that what that was?
Yeah, that was a string machine.
Okay, I was gonna ask you.
Yeah.
So
actually,
you were quite a serious tennis player.
What's really cool, I know that this is a podcast not about me, but like what's really cool about that string machine. So years ago when I used to coach, I was sponsored by one of the really well-known tennis stores in the city. There's one here and there's one out in Oakville. It's called Merchant of Tennis.
Yeah.
So sponsored by the Merchant of Tennis. Rob and Pam are the owners of the business. And so when I was toward the end of my coaching career, I wanted a string machine. I told Rob I wanted a machine. And the machine that you saw down there is that machine. That machine was used in the height of Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer's careers. And it was used at the Open in Toronto for many years.
Yeah.
So the machine that's downstairs has strung their rackets.
That's amazing.
Which is just, to me, very, very cool because...
That is very, very cool.
You know?
Yeah. So you and I will not be playing tennis anytime soon.
Happy to play tennis. I'm at a stage of my life now where like tennis is just fun.
Okay.
Actually, I play tonight. I play tonight from, I think it's like 8:30 to 10:30.
Nice.
Nice. Past your bedtime.
Yes. I make an exception for tennis, but that's it. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, like 10:30 is late to finish. But
that is a late finish.
Yeah.
But tennis has become so popular, it's really hard to get a court. I think maybe what we need to do is buy some land and design
any of those tobacco fields.
It's too far away for Friday night tennis, unfortunately.
I will tell you, actually, it was really close. I don't know how, but I was really close to partially owning a club in the city years ago. My appendix near exploded, and during that time frame, the whole deal fell through. And the week that I was recovering after my appendix,
oh my gosh,
we lost the opportunity. And it was you talk about owning something. This was like, it was so perfect.
Oh my god.
Yeah, still one of those of those things.
That's a story we're going to continue one day.
So, Sacha, I want to say thank you. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for sharing the story. Thank you for being so open. It's a pleasure to get to know you. What we didn't even talk about is the common connection of friends that live on the street together. And so when this connection was made, how enjoyable that was to be able to share that. Thank you for coming to my home, sharing your amazing story. I have new admiration for people that I meet, and you are added to that. I think it's really amazing to think that, you came from a farm in an area that I didn't know. And who the hell am I? But like that you had the ambition to want to do everything that you're doing, and to be doing it so well. It's fantastic.
Thank you. I mean, thank you so much. That's really sweet. I obviously volunteered myself for the podcast, and I appreciate you accepting my invitation. And I also have really gotten to enjoy getting to know you, having this conversation today, hopefully one of what will be many in the future. And hopefully we can do this again.
Yeah, well, and I'll say this too. If you've listened to all of this, I want to suggest, Sacha's already said it, but she's open to that coffee.
Yes.
So if you're out there and you're interested in wanting to understand, if you're potentially a student out there or you're a junior architect or something, I'm offering up coffee for you.
Thank you.
Reach out to Sacha. She's amazingly approachable, very, very open, and clearly running a successful practice that is still very young, and she's probably only scratching the surface of where she's going to go with it. So last thing I want to say to you is that if you're able to, take a look on Instagram. There's a blue logo. It's called Behind the Build. Projects of Sacha will be up on the Instagram channel for you to be able to take a look at. Again, this is a non-visual medium, so that will be the visual. If you're able to, while you're listening right now, take a second, go give this podcast 5 stars. It helps with exposure. With all that said, Sacha, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Jonathan.